I just assumed I would be successful in everything I did, and I would do it the way that I wanted to do it. So my biggest challenge fairly was when I started having kids. I was still in corporate America. It was before we started Claremont. And the men in our world just expected me to give up my ambition and focus on being a mother, which the two just didn't marry. Even though I didn't really think I was gonna be an entrepreneur when I started out, and I didn't know that I was gonna end up having 5 kids, I just assumed I was gonna be able to do the mom thing and the work thing and excel at both.
Welcome to Women and Work, the show where we take an inside look at how women are overcoming our own unique challenges as we grow our careers or build a business while nurturing relationships and family. I'm Diane Mocha, founder and CEO of MomSub, the childcare app that connects you to a substitute mom. And I want you to know that work can fit your life. Each week, we meet women who have done that. And today, I'm with Beth Mazza and Victoria Sivrais. Beth is a serial entrepreneur who has been running her own businesses for more than 2 decades while raising 4 kids. Together, they founded the Female Maverick to help mothers transition to becoming a business owner in an enterprise best suited for their needs. Because they say women can build something ambitious and remain present for their kids. Thank you both for being here. All right. So Beth, you told me that you sold 2 firms worth more than $40 million in the consulting world, which we know is male dominated, has been for a while. And then you teamed up with Victoria to create the second one of those businesses. And I want to know, first I'll start with you. What do you think was the biggest challenge that you faced in your career, specifically because you were a woman, are a woman?
I think that mine was, I felt alone even when I was in a room full of people. I was so rarely with other women because the nature of our clients was that our clients were public companies and they were senior executive, CEO, CFO, right? That's why they would buy our services. It was so rare I was in a room with a woman. And then it was even rarer that I was in the room with a woman who had kids. And then, who had 4 kids, I never was, except for my partner. So I felt constantly alone. And I was so lucky to have Victoria in my second business as a partner, because then we had 9 kids between us and we didn't feel as alone.
Wow. And so that was pervasive for a long time. You didn't have a mentor that sort of bridged that, early or even later in your career?
No, I had great mentors, and they were all men, every last one of them. And I had great ones I'm still in touch with today that made a really big difference in my life in so many different ways. They weren't women, unfortunately.
Right. There were certain things you just,
Yeah.
you're not going to tell them when it's that time of the month. Yeah.
No, and also you sort of, as a parent, you just find yourself not talking about that side of your life, which as your kids get older, it's a huge part about being a mom. It is a huge part of my life. You just kind of end up pushing it down a little because you're not in a room with people who talk about it or want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. And so, Victoria, what about you? As you think back on your career, knowing that you're a woman and faced things that maybe you wouldn't have if you weren't a woman, did you feel that way ever? What was the biggest challenge?
It's funny. Beth and I are so similar, yet we are so different in this one aspect. I just assumed I would be successful in everything I did, and I would do it the way that I wanted to do it. So my biggest challenge fairly was when I started having kids. I was still in corporate America. It was before we started Claremont. And the men in our world just expected me to give up my ambition and focus on being a mother, which the two just didn't marry. Even though I didn't really think I was going to be an entrepreneur when I started out, and I didn't know that I was going to end up having 5 kids, I just assumed I was going to be able to do the mom thing and the work thing and excel at both. And so I think as men, nice men, but told me to say, hey, I think you need to rethink your priorities once I had my first daughter. I was like, well, who are you to tell me that?
Colleagues, bosses, your husband, who?
I'm going to do
Your
it. So,
father? Which men?
and I mean, I'm 10 years behind Beth. And so I actually was afforded this wonderful opportunity that when I moved into the consulting world, I met this wonderful woman who had already had 2 kids and was pregnant with 2 more. And she was showing me that you could actually build a business and be a mother. And so from the get-go, I was nipping at her heels the whole time, and I learned a ton from her. So I had a mentor that was a woman in business and a woman in motherhood and doing both. And so, that was the start of our journey. Her twins just turned 21 this past weekend. I met Beth when she was pregnant with those twins. That's when I switched over from corporate to consulting, and I met Beth at her first firm. So
what a difference between having a role model and mentor and someone that you saw that was like you doing it and you saying, oh, I can see myself, I can get there, versus you didn't have that. So you just felt alone. So you didn't feel alone.
No, I mean, I just really didn't.
And you didn't even feel like you were at some disadvantage or that you had this big challenge because you were a woman.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a little bit of my personality. I'm the youngest of 5 also, which is ironic that I have 5 kids. So I just assume like I have to bulldoze through life to get what I want. And so I do. And some people don't like that personality, but it worked for me. And so I felt like I just could bulldoze to do what I wanted to do. And then I had this amazing support and a mentor that was a boss turned work wife turned business partner. And that gave me the strength to be able to do it. And so I think if you go full circle back to Female Mavericks and writing this book, she didn't have that mentor as a woman and a mother. I did, but we both came to the same place. How do we make other women feel the support and the strength when they want to go build their own business, but they don't want to do it by giving up motherhood? They want to do both.
Mm-hmm. And so I want to go back a little, Beth, to a different time, right? A while ago when you were having young kids, and you were still ambitious. And what changed or what happened that made you move from, wanting to be a business owner? And did you adjust, as most women do, with their careers, with their lives, when the kids came along, and how did you adjust your career?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is I didn't adjust my ambitions. And I will give that squarely to now my ex-husband, but who is also an entrepreneur and wouldn't let me adjust my ambitions. And so I think I did it just the way, like how we do it as women. We know that our plan A probably won't work. We go to plan B, we go to plan C. So I did 2 big things I think that really made a difference. Number one is I was very humble and unembarrassed about asking for help in my own family unit. My mom, helped raise my kids. She was amazing. My dad, there's an iconic story about my dad dressed in, full suit with a fedora going to take my place as a room mom. And the field trip was that you had to go clean the forest preserve. So my girlfriend said, yeah, your dad showed up in his Lincoln and his full hat and, steel-toed shoes, whatever, and he was ready. So I had that. And I was very, I was humble because I didn't have any other choice. So I asked for help and I got it from my family. But also, I think probably unwittingly, I built a kitchen cabinet, like a board of advisors around me. Some were not women and some were not women with kids, but some were. And so even though they weren't in my business, I did feel like some of what they were experiencing, I was too. And so I really, really engaged with them at the moments where I just thought, okay, I actually forgot to pick up my second grader. I literally forgot him. Can someone go get him? I mean, that in the business that we were in, we were doing really high value, crisis work. And so you were getting a call that was like, we're going to put you on with the CEO in 5 minutes. We're going to right now tell you what's going on and what advice he's going to expect from you. So at that point, you go completely into work and you're not thinking, did I bring the Chex Mix into kindergarten? And so I made so many mistakes. And so part of it was I had this wonderful small group of mothers who were like, I got you, I got your Chex Mix. And then I also just had women that were kind of starting to go through just the same thing I was. And at least you could have a glass of wine and be like, what really dumb thing did you do this week? Because I got one, So both those things help. And I think I also am blessed with, I just never say die. Like it's just in my personality that like something will happen. I will figure this out. And so that really, really helps that you can either personal or business, you can be like, okay, I really messed that one up, but I'm going to try something else.
How did you learn to forgive yourself with all those mistakes? Because you probably heard about them from your kids. Sometimes they won't let you live certain things down. What? You didn't have the checks mix when the party started? It was 5 minutes late.
Everybody else.
I still remember that. I hear about these things. She's 23 years old.
Yeah.
I still hear about these things, right?
Okay, so I have two things. One is therapy, and only in the past year, and that's been amazing. But the second is my kids, I don't know how it happened, but they have the biggest hearts. And so even at the time where I probably felt really bad, and maybe they made me feel bad, I have since gone back to them on so many issues. And like, I urge everybody with older kids to do this, where I'll bring up something and say, man, Sam, I really let you down here. They don't remember. They don't care. They remember the time you like took them out of school and you did this special thing, or that you would come home really late after a flight, but you'd get into bed with them and be like, okay, tell me how bad your day was. I know you were upset over text or whatever. Like, I think kids ultimately forgive you, and and I'm sure you find it with your daughter as well, or your son as well, but they end up with some real respect for a mom that actually did both. And the older, I have 3 daughters, and the older that they get, I'm watching them trying to handle their lives and balance it. And more they ask me, how'd you do? What'd you think? And I was always like, oh, I felt terrible. I did it terribly. That isn't what they remember. They remember good things, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Victoria? What was it that, allowed you to feel like you had it all together? Or maybe you didn't feel like that when kids came along and you kept your ambition. You both said you didn't adjust your ambition, even if you adjusted the way you applied your ambition in your life. But how did your career become impacted by kids? Or were you trying to not have it be impacted?
Well, you guys, you have to remember, I am in the absolute thick of it still. So
How old are your children?
my oldest is 14. Then I have a 12-year-old, 10-year-old twins, and a 6-year-old. So like I am
Still.
and I had the majority of those kids when we were building our last business. So like, every day it was a practice in releasing the guilt that I would feel as I was having those kids. Speak to Claire when I'll speak to now too, is because I think it's 2 totally different worlds. When I first had Allie, I was like, oh my God, she is not going to remember who I am. She would get angry as a toddler that I was traveling, and I'd come home and she wouldn't talk to me. Like, she was headstrong. So like having to sit there, and at that moment, to be perfectly honest, I was like, I am going to screw her up for the rest of her life. And I couldn't get past it. Fast forward a little bit, and as we started to build a relationship as she got older, I was like, oh, wow, she doesn't care. She doesn't even remember it. And then I'm also at the same time seeing Beth raising her kids and having these really great relationships. Now, I missed Valentine's Day parties. I missed Halloween parties. I missed everything you could think about. And sometimes I'd cry really hard, and sometimes I just have to pick myself back up the next day. I'd usually call Beth and say, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? And she's like, you're gonna, and they're not going to remember where they are, and you're going to talk through it, and they're going to see a strong woman. So it was really like a mental exercise day in and day out. And it still continues to be that. Like, I am now officially, home as we're building this third business. But my 6-year-old the other day just said to me, she was like, why aren't you at my Valentine's Day party? I was like, well, I can't get past the other moms that won't let me volunteer, but
We know that.
Yeah.
but
The stay-at-home moms.
Yes.
like, but
They
look,
beat me every time.
I mean, seriously, like they always beat me. And even now, like there's this like,
Hey, you should be
like
better
there is
now.
like this mafia of them
Yeah.
that I cannot get past, but whatever. But at the same time, I was like, hey, remember we just went to Miami for 2 nights? Like, because now I had built this freedom, this financial freedom to be able to take her out of school for 2 days and we go to Miami for 1 night. Like, that I think is building the experiences that they will withstand and remember. And it doesn't have to be some fancy trip to Miami. It could be, pull them out of school and go get ice cream. Like, they don't care what the actual experience is. It's to be with you. So finding purposeful times to be with your children, to create those memories, helped me get through like the guilt of actually building the business, because like, as much as I wanted to be with them, I absolutely just wanted to be with building my business. Like, one does not equal the other, and one's not bigger than the other. They were both very important to me, and I just didn't feel it was right to give up either one of those dreams. And so I think working through that is something that just takes time. Like, it takes time, it takes therapy.
Yeah.
Like,
I would imagine, though, it's a big difference being ambitious, running a business, putting your all into it when you have one kid versus 5 kids. So was that something that you always planned? I mean, some people might say to you, like, if you're
do
that
tell her.
ambitious, why not stop at 1 or 2 or 3?
I mean, to be fair, I don't think it matters 5 kids or 1 kid. I think
Once you get
still,
past
you still
2.
deal with the guilt that you feel like you're not. If you're putting your energy into work, you're giving up on you're not being there for your kids, or if you're putting it all into your kids, you're giving it up at work. Like, it doesn't matter the number. Did I plan 5 kids? Of course I did, in case they're listening. Of course I did. But like, no, I went to go have a third. My husband was very happy with the boy and girl we had, and I went to go have my third, and that just so happened to happen. I found out I was pregnant a month after we left and started Claremont. And then 2 months after that, I found out it was twins. So in the first year of the business, I was pregnant with twins while we were getting sued by our prior company, because, I took $1 million of business. Ooh. So like, but it is what it is.
Was there a
Like,
non-compete?
there was a non-solicit,
there
but
was everything.
there was everything. But they came with me. I was willing to defend it. Like, that's a time for another story. This is about
Was that the
kids.
multi-million-dollar mistake? Almost mistake?
Oh, no. We made many. But no, that was not the one I made.
Is there one main? I heard there's one main, like, or maybe you said there were many.
Oh, there were many.
Like near misses, near multi-million-dollar
No,
crash mistake.
We almost sold the business for about 40% less than we ultimately got for the business. If that isn't a multi-million-dollar mistake that we almost made, I mean.
I remember sitting at Alpine Valley, for anyone who's local.
Yes.
And
Great ski resort.
my daughter was at ski practice. I was talking to her. We were screaming at each other because we couldn't decide whether or not to stick with this company. We both knew in our guts that it was not the right partner. It was not the way that we should go. But we had a.
But it was
we
tempting.
Had, we
an offer
had
on the
a.
table.
We had a big offer on the table, but we knew the partners weren't right. Ultimately, we walked away. God, thank God we did. But
Do you think that a man would have more easily said, no, I'm worth more than that? But women are like, well, we acquiesce. We accept that maybe or am I reading into that?
No, you know what I can speak for myself, but you know what I think women do is I think we're positive, right? We're very willing to say, well, if all that goes right, we really will get all that money. But I think one of her greatest assets among a million of them, it's like she doesn't think like that. I do. I think, nope, this will all turn out. It will make sense. She constantly in the back of her head is like, what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't?
Cynical.
Yeah, and it's super helpful. And so at the end of the day, we both went off to our corners and we called the people we trusted most in our own kitchen cabinets, and both gave us the same advice. And when they did, we looked at each other and went, okay, this seems absolutely nutso, but we're saying no.
Wow.
And I mean, in the end, it just was, we exchanged a deal that had an earnout with risk with one that didn't have much of an earnout and didn't have much risk. And we just, had we not turned down the first, we would not have gotten to the second. So
and interestingly, that suitor came back with a sweeter deal.
yeah.
In the next round, and we still said no. We're going to trust our gut.
Almost equal to the second.
And was that life-changing? Was that life-changing
Oh,
money?
for sure. I mean, that was it. We didn't have to, we didn't
So
have
you
to work.
didn't have to work. You
No.
could just be with your kids.
Yeah,
And a
and-
lot of people would, and there are people that scratch their heads and say, $10 million, $20 million, $40 million. Why are you working?
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, we really this is such a mission-based business for us.
Totally.
It is so mission based. Like we say we want 10,000 women to build seven-figure businesses. We will do whatever we can rationally in our power to help women do it. So it's absolutely mission based. And we almost felt, I guess I can speak for myself, I felt like everything that I was reading, particularly on Instagram about building your business and being empowered as a woman, I just thought I don't relate to any of that. You don't build a business because a post of yours went viral. And so like it took us 2 to 4 years each time to feel like we were definitely going to hit payroll. And like I feel like women really need to understand that. So when they don't, their first viral post doesn't make them $1 million, they don't give up. And so part of it was just we were reading social media and saying our stories do not relate to those. And like at times I would have to think, wait, no, I did it. I did it twice. Like I'm right here. So that's
Like,
kind of
I to put a finer point on it, we literally put payroll on my credit card in April, year 3 of the business, as I was sitting in California at this pitch that was like, it was our make it or break it moment. And I called for a cash advance on my credit card. We did it. And then that piece of business came in a couple days later.
Pitch to a client.
A
Yeah.
pitch to a client, which was going to change it. But like, we needed a bridge to get to the payroll. Like, so, and it all worked out for the best. It's not always the best advice to give, but like, we knew we had something and we believed in ourselves to do it.
And we always hired ahead of the curve.
Correct.
That is how we got ourselves into payroll trouble because we
For
always
sure.
hired ahead of the curve. We hired the best person we could possibly afford that would join us. And we hired them 3 months before we probably had enough money to pay for them. So, that we had a couple moments like that. But
It was like The Power of Broke, Damon John's
Yeah.
in his book, where he says it puts that fire in you. Like, I have to do this because otherwise I won't eat or I won't
Totally.
make payroll or, yeah.
I mean, we both many, many times traveled to pitch business 6, 7, 8 months pregnant. Like, and that's exactly what you're talking about. The power of broke is pretty powerful. Like, we have to make payroll. If we just get this piece of business, we can justify who we just hired. We can get this other thing. Oh yeah, no, you feel it really.
And like
strongly about
18-hour turns to Phoenix.
So you talk
Yeah.
about this playbook that you learned from your experiences working in the consulting world and then starting your own businesses and then selling them. And you have a whole system that helps women not just pick the right business, but then execute.
Yeah.
So, why is your magic formula any better than the dozens, hundreds, millions of others that are out there? Because we see so much now.
Yep.
Information is not at a premium anymore.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think there's two big differences with ours, other than like we lived it twice, so we know it worked. But number one and most important is we spend a lot of time helping women figure out what business is going to work for them. So you might love to do something, but if it doesn't pass our tests, then you shouldn't launch that business. And our big test is, could you build a 7-figure business out of it? Which means, and you read in the book, but you can sort of see that if you have a market that's at least 100 million, you can take 1% of that. That's your million. Okay, now you got a business. Now let's work from there. So I think that's a really big part of it, is picking the right business. And then the second part of that is you are immediately setting out your personal and your financial non-negotiables. And so for us, I mean, Victoria was really, really tough about, in a great way, about she was making the 4:45 train home so she could be with her kids, and then she'd get back online later. If she wasn't traveling, she hit that every time. That's a personal non-negotiable, which means clients that wanted to talk to her at 5 p.m. did so when she was on the train, and you heard things loudly in the background. That's fine. That was her non-negotiable. We had a financial one too, and this is what fells so many women. Oh my gosh, some women I'm working with right now. Our financial was, we would never take on debt that one of us or together didn't have cash on hand to pay for it. So as ugly as taking a cash advance on our credit card was, that was actually within our non-negotiables because we did have the cash. Granted, we would have had to take a loan against our 401k to pay for it. So that was the second thing. So like the ways that you go from idea to launch to scale, I think ours are great and they really work very well, particularly for services businesses. But I think sometimes those don't look all that different. But those first two, you really stress testing that you have a big enough market, and then putting your personal financial non-negotiable and then saying, could I get to 7 figures with that market and my personal and financial non-negotiables? And then you're ready to begin to launch, which I think is hard for certain women because your side hustle is not going to be enough to build a 7-figure business. But our feeling is, why are you doing all this unless you can get financial freedom for your family?
Because a lot of women and men, but especially women, say, I just need a little
Yeah.
something on the side. I
Right.
just want something to give me another identity, keep me happy, bring in some extra money. And so, why do you think it's so important for them to push harder? To be, not everyone is type A
Yeah.
ambitious.
Well, I think that that's the one piece that Beth didn't mention. That's before you get to all of those pieces about whether or not you have a viable business, it's figuring out using our Mommy Mayhem Matrix, lovingly named by Beth. It is really to give you a feel of, okay, how much mayhem am I willing to take on versus how much return? And so that allows you to create the type of business that you want to create. So like with Claremont, we wanted a high return, high mayhem business. We wanted to have I personally wanted a nut for my family at the end of it. We were building it for an exit. This time, it's not the same. Like Beth said, this is mission based. Yes, we're capitalists at heart. We want to make money. However, I want to be with my kids. I just said it. I'm in the thick of it with them. I want to be. So I am not willing to take on as much mayhem this time around as I was last time. And so we are creating business models around that idea of it. So like, you don't want to be that ambitious? Fine. You have to understand the return that comes with not being as ambitious. Like there's a trade-off in anything you do.
And I think what you hear in our voices when we're talking about this is we authentically believe moms are great entrepreneurs.
For sure.
Right? So we think it's our superpower. We're super empathetic. We can see way down the path.
Multitasking.
We're multitask
We have
extraordinaires.
1,800 plates in the air.
And we don't spend a lot of time thinking about our egos and tending to them. And so I think the combination of that makes us great
To make
entrepreneurs.
decisions quickly.
Yes.
Because we have to. It's like, oh my
Yes.
gosh, you look like you're about to throw up. I better cancel that.
Yep.
I better do
Here's
this.
your
I better-
bag. Here's-
Yeah, we're going to go. And then I'm going to put that one over here, and so.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
And so knowing that we have so much-
Triage, constantly
Yes.
dealing with triage, right? Which is when you're running a big business, you've got to figure out
Yeah.
the priorities.
I mean,
right?
fairly, even today, my daughter woke up with her coughs. And I was like, okay, so if I take her with me for lunch with Beth and then we're going to go to the podcast, is there going to be a place for her to sit? Like, I mean, it's just fairly, that's how being a mom and an entrepreneur, the day exists.
So the term that's thrown around a lot is the mental load, right? The working moms complain that the mental load falls on them. The men are helping at home, they're cooking more, they're cleaning more, they're even driving the kids around, but it's mom that's making the doctor's appointments and remembering, to get the checks mixed for school and all those things. And then at work, it's the woman usually who's like attending to all the details. Well, I mean, when you're the boss, you've got to,
Right.
you may not be doing them, you're delegating them, but you've got to keep track of all of these. So how do you maintain the mental load not like overwhelming you, and how do you teach that, and is that part of this model and these power moves?
Yeah, there's a beginning section on mindset that we talk about and we live a lot. So part of it is the idea that we will have mom guilt, we will have imposter syndrome, and we aren't going to get rid of those. If they're innate to us, we're not going to get rid of those. But I think there is a mindset and almost an exercise that you do every day that's in the book where I do it today. Like I did it this morning. I got on my plane because I was coming from New York and I did my mindset, which is one, just remembering what I'm super grateful about within my own family. And then two, and this is so big, writing down physically your wins. Like, okay, I did sell that business. I did counsel this person. Oh, and by the way, like I flew to New York and had dinner with my son last night who lives there now. And we had like the world's greatest 3-hour dinner and so connected. And I wrote that down because I thought, can you just remember this, Beth, that this is the kid that you thought you abused the most. He's super resilient. He is like the greatest guy. And I mean, he said over dinner, Mom, I sometimes I forget to call you because I'm so connected to you. I don't think about that. So part of that is we have to remind ourselves of the victories, right? Because we will always remind ourselves of what we messed up at, always. But if in front of us we're remembering these really great things that we've done both in business and in our personal life, I don't know, sometimes it kind of just fuels me and allows me to go on. And I think we stink at it as women because we think we don't have time to write down and then sit in our win for 30 seconds, but actually like we do, it's a super healthy thing to do.
And
I mean, I'm a little different. Like imposter syndrome has never been my issue.
I feel the same way. I hear
Mom-
this so much, and I'm like,
Mom guilt was.
Yes,
And
yes.
like, honestly, like just the burden of running a business and raising a family. Like, my husband is fantastic. Like, he is a super supporter. But like, half the time he doesn't even know what the teachers' names are. Like, so like, let's just be honest. Like, he is
that's just
awesome.
typical.
It's just,
It's the same thing with
It
me.
is what it is. But like, at the height of Claremont, people used to call me super mom, and I literally, like, I still to this day cringe about it because I don't like it. I think it puts unnecessary expectations on women. Like,
others, yeah.
I screwed up all the time. I always said, I do everything about 75%. Like, I'm 75% there for my kids. I'm 75% there for my business. But like, my 75% might be slightly different. But like, the point is I allowed myself that I was going to screw up and I was going to fail and I was going to have to get picked up by my work wife or my husband or someone was going to have to support me. And I have these amazing best friends who would do it. But like, understanding that you are going to fail, that's probably half the battle of like, okay, now it's time to release the mom guilt. You're still going to feel bad that you weren't at the Valentine's Day party and Evelyn's going to remind me that I wasn't there. But like, it's okay. She has seen two very strong women raise families and build businesses. And I think that that's super awesome. Like, there's nothing that can replace that. So if you can mentally balance that idea in your head, I think it's a lot easier to succeed in whatever you're trying to do, whether it's in corporate America or building a business.
Despite accepting all those mistakes, is there something that if you could go back in time and change it, knowing then what you know now, that you would change?
I would have told myself with Allie that you're going to have an awesome relationship with her. Like, I am so close to my oldest now that it's like, now that she's entering high school and like all of the stuff that comes with high school, like, it freaks the heck out of me. But like, she really, unless she's a really good liar, which she's not, like, she really talks to me. Like, we really, like, she came home from volleyball yesterday. We sat and had a long conversation and like, we have an awesome relationship. And she is the only one who really remembers how much I used to travel. Because like, in the middle of Claremont was when COVID hit. And so I was still working 80, 90, 100 hours a week, but like, I was home. So like, it was slightly different. Like, they would joke, this is the one thing, like, I remember driving my kids around and I said something to one of the twins and she goes, "Hold on, I'm on a call." And I was like, oh. So my point being, like, God, I would have just said, give yourself a break, honestly. Like, kids are resilient. Like, you see it in Beth's kids who are now older. Like, one of her daughters nannied for me one summer. Like, they are amazing. So like, and they saw she worked just as much, if not more, twice. Like, and so they are resilient. And give yourself a break. That's what I would tell myself. That's honestly, the only real regret I have. Like, worrying too much about what I was doing to them.
Anything you would change, Beth?
Oh, yeah. I would change that I even bothered to listen to all the smart alecky backhanded compliments I got from, a lot of other moms who did not work in my kids' schools and activities. First of all, what I learned is they have their own trials and tribulations, and that's what they were going through.
Right.
And second, like, it didn't affect what I was doing at all, and my kids didn't care. But when you're at your most vulnerable and someone kind of gives you the backhanded supermom compliment, but they don't mean it, you feel really wounded because you're like, I am trying to keep it together. And
Where I wish I had so much time to devote to
yes,
myself.
that was the best. To myself. It must be my favorites. It must be so nice being in a hotel room alone. And I just thought, Oh, you mean after we worked a 21-hour day and have to get up in 2 hours?
I get to sleep for 3 hours in this lovely hotel room.
And by the way, it probably has bed bugs because the company's paying for it. So yeah, I mean, that I wish that hadn't bothered me, because I always wonder if it affected, how I thought of myself at a time when I probably should have been thinking nicer things about myself.
Well, you've moved past that.
Yes.
And I love that you're sharing it so others out there know that they can move past it a lot sooner. And,
Yes.
and I thank you for those insights on today's episode of Women and Work. If you were inspired by today's story, remember to share it with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe to meet our next amazing guest. If you or anyone you know is struggling to find the right childcare, check out Mom Sub's free webinar that guides families through the steps to find and keep trusted, reliable childcare at momsub.com/webinar. That's Mom Sub, like a substitute mom. You can connect with Mom Sub on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Our mission is for you to discover what you want in life, pursue it with intensity, reach out for help when needed. That's hard for women sometimes, and fulfill your dream, reducing your stress, guilt, and self-criticism, and increasing your calm, confidence, and clarity along the way. Remember, your career, your choices, and your success are yours to define. So keep pushing boundaries and spreading your love and encouragement to other women who need it.